Hey folks, this is Gray here, and today we're going to be going over some of the best options in regards to cutting tools for emergency preparedness. All right, folks, so basically in this video, we're going to go over different types of cutting tools that folks should have in regards to emergency preparedness. Now, being it in your vehicle, your car, your get home bags, your bug out bags, and the list kind of goes on where you can utilize these tools. And I also feel some of these tools can be handy in your everyday life. All right, so I want to clarify in this video, we're going to be focusing on tools that can fit in a get home bag or a bug out bag or EDC or whatnot. Certain things that I will not be covering is like your full size axe or really large cutting tools, which they all play a role in this category as well. But I figured I'm going to focus in on things that are people are going to pack in their bags, their vehicles, on their persons, and stuff like that. So we'll go over that gambit and see how they each apply to you. And what I hope to garner from you guys in regards to this video is to kind of see, your thoughts on certain types of cutting tools. Me personally, I think you need a varied array of cutting tools in regards to each cutting tool may have a specific purpose and can get you out of a bind. Some of the things I may be going over may apply to you, some of them may not. Some of the tools I may show you, you may like, yeah, I like this one, but not that one, or I may like all of them. Like for me, I like all of them. So, that's just how I roll with the things that I like to pack. And there's also redundancies in regard to the types of gear that I like to also add to some of my kits. All right, so let's go ahead and move to the back bench and take a look at some of these tools. And then we'll focus on that. And then we'll come back and wrap it up with me here at the end of this video. All right, folks, as you can see here, we have a lot of different options on the table in regards to cutting tools. It can seem a little bit overwhelming, but each kind of blade or tool has a specific purpose in regards to emergency preparedness. Now, some of them may work for you, some of them may not. And like I said, to me, I like to have a gambit of lots of different ideas and tools to build out bags and whatnot, or things that I carry on my persons to kind of round out my emergency preparedness bags and kits, as well as some of these things that I carry on my persons as an everyday carry item. So let's kind of go over some of these products and why I like some of them and how to utilize some of them. Let's start with something very simple, let's say like a pocket knife. And a pocket knife can have a lot of different uses. It can be used anything from self-defense to normal everyday tasks, cutting cordage, and so on and so forth. And like I said, there's so many different variations of cutting tools. They have so many different purposes, but you got to find the one that works best for you at the right price point, but you don't want to sacrifice quality. So basically, these are a couple of the pocket knives that I've grown to carrying a lot. And as you can see, let's look at these two, for instance. These are some smaller size pocket knives that I use in regards to having a cutting tool on my persons at all times, outside of a full tang, full size knife here. But sometimes I'll carry something like this because maybe something like this is just too small for your purposes. You know what I mean? So maybe you want something bigger, and this is very, very, very large knife. You can see the spine on there. It can do a lot with this. I don't know if you can see the marks all over this knife. I've really utilized this knife for a lot of heavy duty work compared to something of this size. As you can see there's a big difference in these blades. And I kind of wanted to go over that because pocket knives is something that almost everyone usually has, either in their kits or on their persons. All right, so let's move on to something else. And real quick, before I move on to these multi-tools and why I think everyone should have one, is maybe instead of carrying something that you don't want to carry in your pocket, maybe you can carry something small like a little neck knife, something handmade like this. This is very intricate. I really love this. I've used this for skinning animals and other, little objects and stuff like that. It just comes in super handy. And of course, if you had to use it for other kind of like, let's say outdoorsy stuff, it comes in handy with this nice little case here, this leather thing. And I just like it. It's just something that's very, very nifty that I enjoy to have. And some folks may like the craftsmanship as well as that, outside of buying, your normal everyday kind of knives. All right, so let's talk multi-tools. And multi-tools are a necessity in my perspective, and having the right multi-tool with the best options can be very, very pertinent to what type of kit that you're building out. So let's say something like this. This is the OHT by Leatherman. And as you can see, it's a one-handed operation. You got wire cutters here, crimpers. You got all kinds of different tools that are on something like this that you could use for, whatever purposes you're going to be using them for. Let's say you want to use this as a seatbelt cutter. This is going to be used for for a flathead screwdriver. You got a saw here, blade here as well. Let me see, we got a knife right here on this side as well. Let me try to put some of these things back. As you can see, we have a Phillips head right there. Like I said, we have the wire cutters and a few different other options in regards to tools. This is a smaller flathead. And of course, you have the pliers and whatnot. Well, the big difference between these two is the type that they are. So this is something that I carry in my vehicle because sometimes I need something with a good sized plier head on there versus something that has that small. As you can see, there's a big difference in those two. So I like to, have variations on it. So this is usually in my EDC kit, and then this one's usually sitting in my vehicle. Now, outside of this nice, head on this thing here, you also still have wire cutters down here. I don't know if you can see that in there, and a crimper as well back behind there. This one also has a spot where you can use, Phillips heads and pop in other bits in here. So that comes in handy. Again, why I like to keep this in the vehicle. You got another knife in there, another saw on both of those ends. You got a little pry bar in here as well. Some people say more of a chisel, which I've seen people use this as the chisel here. You see that cutting edge on there. You don't want to pry something that's going to, of course, affect this, but you can see it's pretty heavy duty the way it's put together. And this is a Gerber tool. And I'm trying to go over some of these really, really quickly in regards to it because there's a lot of stuff that we're kind of covering in this video. Anyway, so that's kind of give you an idea of the multi-tool side of things for cutting tools in regards to things that you can put in your kit or your everyday carry. All right, so now let's also talk about types of tools that if you're doing bushcrafting, camping, things of that nature, we're going to do a lot of chopping or cutting. You might want something that's going to be like a small hatchet or medium-sized hatchet or something like this silky saw here. Now, here's the big, there's going to be some not dilemma, but discourse in regards to what is the better option. Some people may like something like a little hatchet here because it's, this has a couple of multi-purposes on here that you can use this hatchet. I've done reviews on this stuff like that, or something that's a little bit more bigger. As you can see here, I think that is an O knife, and I think this might be, I think this might be the Schrade that I have here. That it is. You can see the material on that. I usually try to keep these things relatively sharp, because once you use it, you kind of want to, take care of the things that you have. But so how much energy is going to be used in regards to using a hatchet versus using a saw? So that's another thing you got to look at in your capabilities in regards to the type of gear that you have. So maybe a hatchet, something like these things here, are going to work for you. Some people may use these for self-defense outside of, cutting down trees to build shelters and whatnot. But I really love the silky saws. It's like a hot knife through butter when you're cutting small limbs as well as medium-sized trees. Believe it or not, I've done some reviews on some of this stuff. Maybe I should, kind of follow up with that. As you can see here, I think this is the 240 that it is. I have smaller ones. I think it's like the 140, and there's really huge variations of this. But I like using this because it just makes things so much easier than hacking at something. But like I said, it's not always going to suit every purpose that I need. So I like to have a little bit of this and that, depending on the situation. So each bag that I have built for myself, or what's in the vehicle versus what a bug out bag should have, is really going to pertain to what works best for you and what you're capable of using. Some people may not have, the grip strength or the energy to kind of use something like this, but they can use the saw a lot more easier for them to, do some of these tasks. All right, so now let's kind of move into your full tangs or partial full tangs, and I'll kind of get to that here. But before we get into these regular kind of basic bushcraft, survival, everyday carry kind of knives, because yes, some folks will carry these on their persons every day. Some people prefer to have a full-size knife or a pocket knife or a folder when it comes to having a knife on their persons. And I wanted to show you this knife here. This is by Becker. And this is what I call an urban survival tool. As you can see, this thing is a monster, has a lot of weight on it, and just good at cutting certain things like cordage and whatnot, wires, fencing, and stuff like that. As you can see, this is a very weird looking blade. As you can see, it also has this kind of hook there. Everything serves a purpose on this knife. And the reason I got this knife, kind of flip it this way, is not really for chopping or feathering and all the other stuff that some folks may have, say, oh, I don't like that knife. It's just not going to do what I need it to do. But basically, I'm usually having this as a pry bar. As you can see on that edge there, it has a very thick edge, and you can see how that has that kind of bevel there, so that you can stick it into a door or something and pop that thing open without breaking. Because if you use a smaller knife, we'll grab this out real quick, something like this, it's going to break, bend, or who knows what's going to happen with that, right? So I call this the urban survival tool, or a key to the city, just because you can chop, hack. It just looks mean and nasty, but I wanted to show that to you as we're going over some of these tools. Like, again, depending on where you live, this may be more effective for you in regards to an urban, suburban kind of environment to get through some tough stuff. Knives like this have been around. The BK3, if you watch it, I think maybe even 15, 20 years ago, this thing has been floating around. I don't see too much on it, but I personally like it. I have another one that is not in good condition. I just recently bought this one about 3 or 4 months ago to replace that one because I beat the living crap out of the last one. And to kind of continue with the Becker series, I'll show you this one here. This one has, as you can tell, I've, kind of put it through, hell, to say it politely, you know what I mean? As you can see, the blade probably needs to be cleaned up a little bit and sharpened. But this is the BK2. Again, a really thick spine on that. As you can probably see on the edge there, I don't know if you can see that there, I've stuck this in things and popped it. I've done a lot of different things in regards to processing wood with something like this. It does have a nice sharp edge. You can keep that edge on there. I think it's Crovan steel. Depending on what you're trying to do, you can chop with it, with this blade. The weight of the blade itself kind of helps alleviate some of that in regards to, that fatigue that you might get by chopping at something for so long. But all in all, this to me makes a great survival knife. It's not the end all solve all kind of thing like that. You know what I mean? Imagine trying to, let's say you're trying to skin and process small game. It's probably not the best tool to utilize for something like that. But in an emergency situation in regards to self-defense and processing wood and doing things in that kind of bushcraft mindset, it makes a great tool. Now, another thing I've noticed that people may run into issues with is price points. And we're going to kind of look at different price points in regards to knives. And again, sometimes when you buy a cheaper knife, depending on what that knife is, it could be good and it could be bad, being that sometimes you pay for what you get for. And we're going to get to that when we get to these Moras, because they are a great knife, but they have some limitations in regards to that. So let's kind of look at some of the other full-size knives here. I've went over some of these. This is a Fortitude 2. Which is the Such edition, which you might know his channel, very large channel in the emergency preparedness realm of things. And I love the leather case on that. I haven't really got to use this knife too often, but it's a solid knife. One of my favorite more, I guess you would say, knives for kind of more of a self-defense knife. I do like this Gerber here. You can see it's a USA made product. It's called the Strong Arm. It is a great blade. Lots of different mounting options for this blade here, be it if it's belt or on your pack or whatnot. But it does make, for me personally, I think it makes a great kind of self-defense knife, because this thing, when you go into something, not to sound so, I guess, mean or nothing, it's going to do the job, be it bone or whatever you're coming in contact with. And the rubberized grip, if you get blood and stuff like that on there, you can still be able to keep a nice grip on there. Of course, you can add a lanyard to wrap around your wrist or whatnot to this as well. So, like I said, I like this kind of blade for like that self-defense kind of situation. And the sheath itself, it locks into place as well. Moving on to something, let's say like this here, the blades are going to be a little bit different. As you can see, this has a little interesting blade. And something like this I've used this to process, let's say, boar, gutting and stuff like that. And small game, it works great for that. It also has a nice spot where you can do some feathering with it. I try to keep this blade clean. I know there's still some scrapes and nicks on that bad boy there. As you can see, I got kind of like some of that just kind of peeling off there. But, you got to utilize the tools. You can't just buy stuff and just throw it in a bag and hope that you know how to use it, because, like I said, they all have a nice purpose to that. So, like I said, it always depends on what you're trying to do with some of this stuff. Again, this is just another full tang knife, the other Fortitude that we have here. There's that one. But some of these knives, like I say, like the Becker can run you 100 and some bucks. The Gerber itself, sometimes you get it on sale, maybe 70 to 80 bucks. But I've seen it as high as 130, 140 bucks. All right, so now let's kind of look at the budget conscious connoisseur in regards to knives. The Mora is a knife that a lot of people in the emergency preparedness community are probably really familiar with. Mora makes a great knife. It's not a full tang. I think it goes somewhere down and right about here in regards to it, but it's a very sharp, usable knife for skinning and some of the bushcraft things that you can do, feathering wood and stuff like that. But you can pay anywhere from $15 to $25 for a knife like this. And the great thing is if you have a couple of them, kind of like here, I got this one's, you can kind of tell I kind of went a little bit crazy on that one because I bought me a nice leather sheath with that one here, just because this is one I utilize more often that I kind of carry with me. But you know, they're a very solid company. Very nice knife. I think they're Sweden. I think is where the Moras come from. They're stainless steel. So that being said, they also have a little bit more of a pricier variation of their knife. These are stainless. This blade here has a higher carbon content mixture into it. It comes with a different type of sheath where you have a way to kind of sharpen your knife, a little sharpening stone right here. A little bit better mounting options. If you can see here, let me reach back here. As you can see, some of the times I've put these through their testing, you know, having them on my belt and bending and kind of hiking and just doing the things. These sheaths don't work out as well with just this little clip. It still works and it hasn't broken, so I give it credit for that. But I like having these mounting options here. Outside of that, it also has a fire starter on that bad boy there. And if you kind of go here and you use the right angle, you kind of get that, you know, fire starting aspect. So it's nice to have an encompassing knife that kind of has things built into it, and hence why I like this combination of the Mora. But this is going to be a lot more pricier. I've seen it on sale from 75 to 80 bucks. I've seen it as high as like 130 to 150 bucks, depending on where you buy your things. So that's why you kind of got to pay attention to sales. But anyways, folks, that's kind of a gambit of some of these knives. This is not the end-all, solve-all. If I was to bring out every knife I own out here, we'd probably be here for days and days and days, as well as some of like the machetes and kukris and all these other variations of knives that I have. Like I said, we'd be here for the dawn of time. But this is just trying to give you guys some ideas in regards to cutting tools when it comes to emergency preparedness when you're building out a kit using the 5 C's. Of survival. And if you're not familiar with the 5 C's, you can Google David Canterbury and the 5 C's, and they've expanded on it from the 5 C's to the 10 C's. I think they even have 20 C's now, but it kind of gives you a variation. It just kind of gives you an edge on regards to, emergency preparedness and having more capabilities to survive a bad situation. All right, so that is going to round out the 5 C's. Now, some of you folks may, well, great, what are the other 5 C's like combustion and cordage? Cover and so on and so forth. And I'm going to put a playlist up so that you can kind of see it, and I'll pop it up here of the 5 C's in case you guys want to kind of play catch up. And then, like I said, I'm probably going to hope to try to extend this out to the 10 C's of survival. So here in the next week or so, I'm also going to be dropping a video in regards to how to build a bug out bag or a get home bag, whatever that you want to label that as. And I'm going to be utilizing the 5 C's in regards to that video because there's a bag that I plan on building out for my wife. And I'm going to kind of give her a little edge, and by building this, the basic necessities in regards to bug out bag building, and then let her add the things that work for her, because you can't always, you can't just build a custom thing and say, here you go, this is going to be the end all solve all, because we all have different needs in regards to the environments that we live in, the areas that we live in. Some people live in a rural cold area. Some people live in a rural hot area, suburbs, cities, apartment dwellers, depending if you're like in New York City and like downtown Manhattan, that can really change the way you look at what's in your pack versus a suburban environment, out in the suburbs, or someone who lives out in a rural environment. Anyways, I wanted to say thank you all for taking the time to watch this video. If you got any value out of the video, hit that thumbs up button as always. And if you're new here, take a chance and subscribe to the channel. And folks, if you can leave a comment in regards to the content of this video, specifically some of your thoughts on the different tools that I showed you, some of the tools that you may carry on your persons or have in your kits, just to share with the community so we can all get a general idea of how things work, as well as what other folks use. And again, remember, folks, you are not alone. This is Gray Man. I'm out. I'll see you guys in the rebound. God bless every single one of you.